Hi everyone. So we have been living together for almost 10 years, married for 3. She, my wife who I'll call her Hannah, dated a guy who I'll call him Patrick, ages 18 to 20, and then on and off for another year. We started dating when she was still seeing him-ish, but I was aware of him. And then I sort of gave her an ultimatum saying that I wanted to make things serious and she cut him off. He ended up moving up north for work and had stayed there for a number of years. We are 32. He's 41. This is going to be a long one. We are inseparable, both in our personal and professional lives, running a thriving small business together. Our friends often tease us about how perfect we are together and how we hardly fight. Despite this one issue, we have an incredibly happy and successful relationship in business. We work well together. We see eye to eye. For the last 10 years, we've spent nearly every day together. Every now and then, she would run into Patrick, whether it was on special occasions like birthdays and holidays, or just by chance every few months. She stayed friends with him and I was aware of this. I never felt threatened by him. She was very much done with him. Or so she claimed to me. They would usually meet up for dinner or coffee for an hour or two to catch up. Oddly enough, I never saw him during these encounters. He made sure to keep his time with my wife private, concealing it from his own family. However, there have been times in all these years where we'd meet for a double date or my wife and I would meet him for dinner, lunch, or breakfast together. He acted buddy with me. He asked me questions about business. We had some of the same hobbies in common. Honestly, it just felt like we had to be friendly to each other for the sake of Hannah. It has always puzzled me why my wife continued to keep in touch with him, even after he repeatedly cheated on her while they were dating. From what she told me, he was opposed to her. He'd actually back out of plans we'd all make together. He'd say he was coming over for a barbecue at our place but would cancel last minute. This happened quite a few times. She showed incredible dedication and care when she helped him recover from a serious motorcycle accident, feeding him in bed for months, taking care of him, bathing him, watching over his house. I didn't think much of it at first, and I trusted my wife's judgment, even though I strongly disagreed with her decision to stay connected with someone who had hurt her multiple times. She'd always be quick to say about any friends who did the same to me. She'd want me to cut them off, but then I'd simply remind her of how she treated Patrick and then she'd kind of shut up. I should say that this Patrick fellow also comes across as a fuckboy. He's always coming up with these dirty stories that seem inappropriate to say, especially to someone's wife, but Hannah always laughs and says that's just Patrick. I'm not about it. One day I noticed her phone light up on the coffee table and saw that he had sent her a super sexual joke, like something that sort of crossed the line. It was something along the lines of basically asking her to be a third for him and his GF at the time. And I say GF, but it was just a woman he'd hook up with every now and again. I was immediately taken aback and brought it up to her, explaining how inappropriate it was. She assured me she would talk to him and that it would never happen again. She tried to tell me again that it was just him and he was harmless and didn't mean anything by it. I chalked it up to him being a sleazebag. However, a few months later, I caught him doing the same thing again and I was beyond freaked out. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was just not right. So when she fell asleep, I went through her texts. As uncomfortable and disgusting as it was, I needed to know. What I found were more sexual jokes and even some texts criticizing me. In a fit of rage, I immediately woke her up, was scrolling through the messages with her, and basically forbid her from seeing him ever again if this behavior continued. I said it's totally inappropriate for him to messaging her this no matter how close of friends they were. I said no other male friend sent her things like this and he's totally disrespecting me and our relationship. She stopped seeing him and messaging for several months after that incident. After a year or so, she manages to convince me to be okay with it once again. Maybe it was because he needed some real estate advice and we happened to work in the field, or maybe I was just worn down after a year. Either way, I agreed to meet him for coffee with Hannah. It seemed fine and normal for some time, but I couldn't shake off the unease and continued reading their texts, which disgusted me. Eventually, I found more inappropriate jokes from him. I reached my breaking point and firmly declared that this would be the last time this happens or I'd be leaving. I said if this happens again, she's clearly disrespecting me. She tried to say that he's always been like this and it's pretty harmless, it's just his sense of humor. I say no, I'm not having it. I'm serious, Hannah. I'm not going to let another man talk to my wife like that. From then on, she promised not to engage in conversations like that with him and would only communicate about work-related matters. Now a year later, somehow once again, dumb at SS me, I come around to allowing them to hang out, but I am not happy about it and I hold back from telling her so, and it becomes our sole problem in our relationship. It becomes all we fight about. I effing hate him, but I love her so much, so I let her. And it's only every couple months or so whatever. Anyway, fast forward to the last couple months. I notice they are talking way more often. She's going into a different room if he calls, her voice totally changes, lots of phone calls, and texts. She's laughing after reading whatever it is he sends. Yeah. We have access to each other's locations because we are married and I came home late from work a few times and took my time coming back from a men's hockey league on more than one occasion and she had a fit. So she insisted on sharing our locations together. Sure. I'm not guilty of anything other than being a little late. Well, Patrick ends up finding a job in the city near us and moves back. I never thought to check in on her. But now I can't help myself. Every time she goes out, I'm checking her location. She's not home one day. She seemed a bit skittish telling me that she was going to a friend's place to help her organize her closet. I'm like, okay. She's never been one to organize anything in her life. I didn't believe a word she said, but I hoped I was wrong in assuming she was with Patrick. I see that she was at an unfamiliar address. Curious, I give her a call and ask what she's up to. Her voice sounds strange, and she tells me she's at a friend's house. I'm like, what friend? She says Danica's. I'm like, Danica? Doesn't she live on the south side? And she's like, yeah. Why? And I'm like, I know where Danica lives, and it's not the location that you're currently at. Say hello to Patrick for me. She tries to say something, but I cut her off and hang up the phone. She tries to call me, but I don't answer. She hurries home, terrified that she has been caught spending time with him and telling a lie. The thought of getting caught makes her so anxious that she starts throwing up. We get in this huge fight and I tell her that I'm leaving. I've packed a bag. She's on the ground dry heaving and hyperventilating. We're supposed to meet with one of these big clients for work the next day, but I tell her to not bother coming into work or I'll have her arrested for trespassing. She's literally sobbing at my feet as I'm leaving the house. The next day, she doesn't show up to work. My mind is racing. I'm trying to deal with one of our biggest clients yet, but my mind isn't all there. It's torture. She texts me and it's full of apologies for lying about where she was and for the fight that night, but insists that nothing happened with Patrick. She said she only lied because she didn't want me to get mad because she knew I wouldn't be happy with her going to his house by herself. She said he needed a hand unpacking the last of his stuff. I try to keep my cool and focus on the task at hand, but my thoughts are consumed by the truth behind her words and my own insecurities. Despite his sporadic presence in her life over the years, I can't stop my mind from wandering to thoughts of him and comparing myself to him. He's incredibly wealthy, and I'm certainly not despite our prosperous business. And yeah, Patrick is a pretty good-looking guy. He knows how to dress himself. He takes care of himself. He likes the finer things in life. These thoughts haunt me, even when we're together intimately. I try to brush them off, but they persist. I don't trust my wife with him. And that's what it boils down to. I stayed that night at work. I text her and tell her not to come in again tomorrow. I decide that I'll go home the next day at lunch to talk to her. Like a psycho, for the last few days, I've gone in and checked her location, but she's been at home the whole time. I'm thinking, maybe this is all in my head. I'm thinking maybe I'm the bad guy for treating her like this. Maybe I'm overreacting. The next day, I check her location before I leave work and she's at home. I decide not to let her know I'm on my way, and instead I was going to surprise her. Well, I get there. Her car is in the driveway. Her phone is on the counter, but she's nowhere to be seen. I'm thinking maybe she went for a walk, so I wait. Nothing. Her purse is gone. Her running shoes are in the closet. But her keys to lock up are gone. Someone must have come to pick her up. She left her phone at home so Elle wouldn't know her location. So I had a hunch. I remember the address of his house and I think before I head back to work, I'm going to drive by just to see what I find. I park down the street from the house and decide I'm going to walk up to it. If anything, I'll walk up to the door and pop in just to say hi. I get up to the house and there's a big bay window. And as my eyes adjust, I can see into the window just enough to see Hannah and Patrick sitting on the couch. She's on his lap kissing him and her arms are wrapped around him. I pause for a few seconds in shock. Then I pull out my phone and start taking photos and videos. I walk right up to the window and they're too enthralled with each other to notice I'm there. Then I bang on the glass and suddenly they jump up and see me. I'm like, smile for the camera. I make it back to work and think of all the times they must have been together. Out of the dozens and dozens of times I've let them get together. It can't just be the one time, right? My trust in her is completely shattered. I can't believe those were the only 2 times they met up. Despite all the suggestive and sexual texts between them, she expects me to believe that they only made out for a short time? We are adults, for God's sake. Who just makes out these days? And even if that was the truth, it doesn't change the fact that I have expressed my discomfort with their relationship for years. She always brushed it off and tried to convince me it was nothing, even though she knew it bothered me deeply. Even her own friends and family have scolded her for seeing him after how he hurt her before. How could she do this to our relationship? Was anything ever real? And I'm partially to blame. I should have stopped things from the start. I should have walked away earlier. But I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe so badly that he was nothing but a friend who didn't know how to stay within the boundaries. He was clearly never threatened by me. He knew exactly what he was doing. Do you think she never moved on from him? Maybe she convinced herself that their relationship was just a friendship? And now she'll do anything to get his attention? Has anyone else experienced this? What should I do? I hate that I have to share this. I don't want our mutual friends to find out. Update 1. Alright. It's been 3 months and I've talked to a divorce attorney about separation and divorce. And that's been messy because we own a business together. I was a nervous wreck for a few weeks after sending her the formal notification. She tried to deny everything and even tried to countersue me for defamation and emotional distress. But I had all the evidence, and she knew it. I had to include any and all relevant communications, such as texts, photos, videos, that confirmed her actions. So that was also fun. The funny thing about that is she was in breach of a partnership agreement that we signed when we started the business. I was able to formally notify Hannah in writing that she was in breach of the partnership agreement due to her infidelity. This notification clearly outlined the specific provision of the agreement that she had violated and the consequences of her breach. Thus, she's about to no longer be a co-owner or a business partner. Sucks to suck. Guess she should have thought of this when she was sucking face with Patrick. All of this means that she's going to be transferring her ownership shares to me. At the same time, the house was under my name and my father had co-signed for us at the time. So she's been out of the house. She went to stay with her cousin and then eventually moved in with Patrick. My heartbreaking conversations with some of our mutual friends confirmed what I'd feared. She never moved on from Patrick. She would talk about him constantly with some of our mutual friends and they always thought it was suspicious. One of our friends, Lynn's, even said that she told Hannah that if she mentions him one more time to her, that she'd tell me everything she said. Lynn's apologized for not telling me sooner. I've sought therapy to help me cope with the emotional turmoil, and I've learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I made in our relationship. I've sought solace in new friends and hobbies, and I'm slowly gaining back my sense of self. I know it's hard to believe, but it's a relief in a way, right? I've been carrying this weight of doubt and mistrust. And now, I finally have the proof confirming what I feared all along. Some of our friends didn't see it coming. They thought all was sunny in Coolsville. Signing off. Update 2. It's been 10 months now since I filed for divorce. The business is officially mine. What a relief. Lynn's told me that Hannah called her up recently to stay with her as she uncovered that Patrick was seeing someone behind her back, so she moved out and she's back at her cousin's. Ironic, isn't it? She still doesn't have a job. She's been trying to start up her own thing though she faces the challenge of building it from the ground up since I retained all the clientele. Consequently, she was unable to transfer any existing business. I believe I contributed the majority of the business acumen to our endeavors. As I continue to rebuild my life, I find myself wondering what it was about me that made me so blind to the truth. It's unsettling to think that I could have been so wrong about someone I loved. Our mutual friends have been incredibly supportive throughout this entire ordeal, even though some of them were taken aback by the revelation. They've offered to help with the business or to just be there for me as I navigate this new chapter in my life. I appreciate them more than words can express. I decided to take my friends' advice and dip my toes back into the dating world. It was nerve-wracking at first, but meeting new people helped me realize that there was more to life than dwelling on the past. I went on a few dates, some good and some not so good, but each one taught me something about myself and what I was looking for in a partner. She's pretty great so far, but we're just having fun and getting to know each other. Life is moving forward. I've learned my lesson about trust and communication, and I'm no longer willing to compromise on those things in a relationship. I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned and the relationships I've built throughout this journey. It's been a difficult road, but I've come out stronger and wiser. I'm excited to see what the future holds and to continue moving forward in life. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Discovered my wife of 11 years has been cheating on me with my best man for months. Now her dad has cut her off completely and she's lost our house, car and everything. My wife, 35 female, and I, 38 male, were married for 11 years. Her father and I worked together for even longer than that, which is how my wife and I met. I went to his house for a work party, and his daughter was there, like a prize to be won. When I started talking to her, we hit it off before I knew she was my boss's daughter. I stayed late into the night talking with her, until I knew I had to ask her on a date before leaving that night. She accepted. We dated properly, without consummating our relationship until we were both clearly serious about each other. Neither of us were talking to other people, neither of us had those toxic social media accounts, and our families knew we belonged together. It was a beautiful relationship, and I felt like I was living life to the fullest with my loyal, honorable woman. Our wedding was a huge, wonderful event, and I wasn't nervous at all. I knew how serious she was about me, and I really felt like we were meant to last forever. Fast forward 10 years. Her father was forced to sell his business. He made a considerable amount of money from the sale, and since I was laid off, he gave me a large sum of money. It was enough for my wife and I to live off of for years, so I took my time looking for another job. I actually contemplated retirement or starting my own business from home. After spending all my days at home, I could tell my wife started to get distant and anxious. She wanted to know when I planned on getting out of the house. I asked if there was something she wanted us to do, and she said no. It didn't seem like she wanted to go on a trip with me or get out of the house together. It just seemed like she wanted me to leave for a while. I didn't really get it, because we loved each other's company, and the house was big enough that for some of the day, we didn't see each other. We each had some alone time, but I also made sure I paid her adequate attention and spoke her love language. One day, I was reading in the living room when I got a naughty image of my wife airdropped to me from her phone. It made my heart race, but not in a good way. Every bit of this felt wrong, like this picture wasn't intended for me. When she entered the room, I just looked at her and showed her the picture on my phone, waiting to gauge her response. She just smiled and played it off like it was intended to be a pleasant surprise for me. I suggested that next time she come stand in front of me and start stripping. She just smirked and left the room. I made it my personal mission to check her phone at the next opportunity, so while she was cooking and had her back turned, I grabbed it. I found the same picture I saw, except this one was sent to none other than my former best man. The closest friend I had in this world, the man I asked to be in our wedding. I took screenshots of their flirty conversation, which included comments about how I wouldn't leave the house, and they were both desperate to hook up. Again. My whole world came crumbling down within an hour. I threw her phone at a head-level cabinet beside her, smashing it to bits. She screamed, so I rage-screamed. Her eyes were as big as an owl, and she was as still as one too. I told her she cheated on me, and she was speechless. She didn't want to admit it, but she knew she couldn't deny it, either. With her standing there, I sent the screenshots to her father, and said I wondered how she was going to get through life without me or her daddy to save her. Her face started to crumble, until she was a sobbing heap on the floor. I turned off the stove and told her to start packing her stuff, because I was filing for divorce. She turned so white, her skin looked slightly green. She begged me for forgiveness with all the strength she had left. She grabbed my pants and I pulled away. I told her I didn't deserve this heartbreak and disrespect, and that I wouldn't find it in my next wife, no matter how long she committed to me. Marriage is supposed to be beautiful and blissful, not what she turned ours into. She wailed breathless sobs, as I pulled her out onto the porch, surrounded by piles of her belongings. She asked me who was coming to get her, and I said I didn't know, that was up to her to figure out. My former best man was married, so it was just 2 hours later that his wife discovered the truth. He was kicked out, and so my wife actually tried to ask him to come get her from my porch, and he cussed her out before blocking her. It was so dramatic and heartbreaking to experience this. I felt like my life became a horrible reality show that I did not relate to. I suddenly despised the woman I loved for so long. She tried calling her father. As soon as he answered, she sounded like a whiny little girl when she called him daddy and tried to paint me as the monster to blame. He scolded her so loudly that I could hear it from the doorway. She tried to interject, but he wouldn't have it. He told her she did not behave like the lady he and her mother raised her to be, and he couldn't fathom how she had the gall and heartlessness to cheat on me, who he called an honorable, respectable man that didn't deserve this devastation and betrayal. He ended the phone call after telling her he would not be coming to save her from facing the consequences of her actions. It was a friend that my wife barely considered a friend that came to her rescue and said she could stay in her spare bedroom. My wife had always bragged to this woman about how lucky she was to have me in the house we lived in. Her dad was the one paying for her car, so she only kept that until he told her to take over the payments. She couldn't afford them, so he took the car back. My ex had it all until her actions reduced her to nothing. I can only wish her luck recovering from such a stupid and unnecessary decision that changed our lives forever.